Good afternoon, everybody. My name's John Hyde. I'm from publicsectorpm.com.
And I'm Bernardo Torrado from the Project Box, and we're your hosts for PMTV, a program where we host a group discussion with prominent project managers within the industry.
Now, today we have two very special guests, hopefully three. We might be joined by Robert Kelly, the managing partner from KPS Services, in due course. But for the moment, we have the wonderful Hala Sala, who is a Project Excellence Passionista, and Taralyn Frasqueri Monia, CAPM PMP. Did I get any of those names pronounced correctly?
Almost all of them.
Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody. Over to Bernardo.
The topic for today is how to do more with less. So John, can you kick us off with the first question?
Yes. So in these times of austerity, I think this poses project managers with quite a tough challenge. We're having to try and deliver under increasing pressure and try and deliver more. So my first question really, and I'd like to point this one to Hala first of all. Hala, have you got any tips for project managers out there about how you actually go about achieving more with less?
Yeah, so I kind of like to switch that question on its head and say, you know, your best bet in times of austerity is really to see how can you do less with less. So, you know, this is a great opportunity for you to meet with your team and individually also to think about what is it that you're doing that you don't need to be doing? What is it that you're doing that can be streamlined, cut out, what's being redundant, what's not being consumed at all, what reports are you generating that maybe could be automated, or you can just rely on data that's already existing, and do things that way. So, you know, that's something that we've done, and it's something that has really helped teams and gain more focus. And I wrote about this recently, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. So, you know, how can you streamline it and go down that path? And then the other thing is thinking about really what are your priorities, what are your team's priorities, where can you give and take? So are you focused more on time or quality, or you know, can you cut out some of the upfront requirements gathering and instead do kind of more continuous testing and validation with your customers? So that's kind of how I would approach that.
Fantastic. Taralyn, did you have any additional views or other ways of coming at that one?
That question is near and dear to my heart as a project manager where I currently work. And like Hala said, whatever it is, it's something with doing less. Whatever, do more with less, do less with less. Whatever it is, it's always going to be with less. And I don't know if, you know, the next 5 years we're going to get to a point where we're doing less with more or more with more. So I feel like it's going to be with less. 7 years ago when I started, when, you know, the milk and honey was flowing, I had a huge team, almost of 25 people. And 7 years later, we are down to two smaller self-operating teams where there's a team of 4 and a team of 5. So we went essentially from double digits all the way down to single digits. There are only 9. And I believe our two biggest wins in being able to stay relevant and, of course, stay employed was we had a standard set of project management processes that were repeatable, but that were also something that could be, and even though we work in waterfall projects, they were very flexible, and I would dare to say very agile, even though our projects are mostly construction, infrastructure type things. But a set of standard repeatable processes that were as lean as possible, so that way we could deliver wins, you know, a little quickly to our customers. And the other thing that was big for us, especially in technology, was automation. We just didn't have the people to be able to deploy, you know, technicians and engineers out on every single call and every single thing that our clients and customers and end users wanted. So we worked closely with our clients, customers, and end users and said, hey, we want to be able to deliver, but there are very few of us. If we give this to you this way with this work, and they were really open to embracing the new technology, you know, running conference meetings all by themselves, video conference meetings all by themselves, and they're actually really super tech savvy. So that was a great big help, having standardized processes and realizing we're going to need to rely on technology to automate as much as we could. And also hand some of it to our customers and say, we really do need your help to sort of partake in this, since we can't be there all the time. Would you be comfortable with using this technology? And they were thumbs up all around for that. So it was a really big help for us.
Fantastic. I've noticed that Robert's with us. Hi, Robert. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello. I am very, very sorry. I am having some technical issues, so if I drop off, then I don't want to be a distraction. I will stay off. I believe I have a virus on my laptop.
Oh dear. No worries. Well, let's make the most of you while we've got you.
Okay.
And let's try this question on you then, Robert. We're talking about how to achieve more with less. So we've just heard from Tara Lynn and Hala about ideas around using technology to achieve more with less. Have you got any tips for project managers out there trying to do the same?
Sure. So I think, when we say do more with less, I'm not 100% sure we're talking about more velocity, right? We're not doing more projects, or at least I haven't found that 25th hour, the 8th day, right? So from listening to Tara Lynn and Hala jumping on a little late here, I agree with everything they're saying. Find ways to streamline, leverage automation. But then there is the good old-fashioned communication, right? You have to set expectation with your clients, with your team, that says, the projects that usually take 6 months are now going to take 7, right? If you can't add people, we don't have budget, okay, well then you're looking at potentially, if you have to stay at that same time frame, then you're looking at some risk in quality, right? Or or just simply the time's not going to work, right? So those are things, you have to have those conversations and set expectations up front. And while everyone, I think, realizes we're doing more with less, sometimes the conversation still needs to be had. So once you can have that conversation and set expectation, then some of the other techniques set in and everyone's on the same playing field.
So Robert, I think Hala and Tara Lynn also touched upon this. So how do you keep your team members and yourself motivated, given the fact that things are very difficult nowadays? Robert, would you want to take that on?
Sure. So motivation is that's a big factor, especially when you're working 60 hours a week nonstop for what feels like since 2009, right? Everyone I talk to is just overworked. So motivation. It really comes down to the PM stepping up and being that you got to cast a vision. You have to make people feel good about what they're working on. Because even in the good times, and people are making good salaries and they're being paid at the top of that scale, eventually that catches up as well, right? So it's not all about the money. It's that people want to work on things that matter, right? And if you can keep that in front of them, keep the team motivated with stuff they're working on that truly matters to the organization and reminding them of that, then that'll help. And then the good old, you got to have fun, right? You got to introduce some fun into your projects. You have to try some different methods. Get out of the building for meetings. Here on campus we have a beautiful courtyard, so we host meetings outside. So you got to get creative to kind of break the monotony of the day-to-day and that overwork feel. But at the end of the day, it's all about content and the core of, people got to like what they're working on. They have to see the value they're adding to the organization.
Hala, would you have anything additional to add as far as, what have you done as far as specifics on helping also motivate team members as well?
Yeah, I think this is something that I've actually recently been just thinking about, and part of it is just getting people to feel like they're invested in the end product. So, how are they contributing to a bigger picture? Making them feel like it's more than just your day-to-day tasks. It's how you're contributing to something that's bigger than yourself, and you're being a part of that big picture. And finding ways that that motivate people by really thinking a little bit more about the people aspect, and thinking about what is it that matters to this person? What is it that matters to that person? How do you inspire them? Is it by showing them kind of more of the cool graphics or the cool, end product that you're trying to build, or is it by getting into the details and showing them how they're going to, change the way we think about something? So just approaching each person individually is one thing with motivation.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think that there has been, especially in a time where you don't have a lot of resources, trying to be creative on what exactly you can do. And I'm also curious to get a little bit more of what Taralyn has done, especially since she had a larger group and now it's a smaller group. How has she got those team members, or any examples that that you can share, Taralyn, around getting folks motivated on doing work every day, I suppose?
Thank you very much for asking. I've actually taken a cue from our larger organization, and I think the biggest thing was recognizing that the people on my team, and say the people on the team in the larger organization, were really regularly making sacrifice plays. We have to deliver certain products with very, very tight deadlines, and people are working indeed, 60 hours, like Robert was saying, 70 hours a week. They're away from their families, and so I think my biggest realization was that I had to recognize that I'm dealing with people who are away from families, I'm dealing with people who are away from friends, and that human element was really important. So what happens in the larger organization is they'll regularly have things for us like, come get a treat on Wednesday. It's an ice cream. It's something so simple, but it really does sort of release that pressure valve a little bit. Bring your family in on weekends because we know that you miss them and you don't get to see them. So there's that recognition that you are really sacrificing a lot for us so that we can all have this big win. But we want to be able to do these things for you. So my team, which is smaller, actually is a little easier because I could actually, I can't expense everything all the time, but I can take them to a lunch. I can bring back lunchbox of sandwiches or Snookies cookies or something like that. And so it's those little things, recognizing, thank you so much for your sacrifice, these sacrifices that you're making, being in here long hours away from your family. So the biggest thing was that human part of it, that investment and showing that they are doing good for the project was one thing, but I think the biggest kind of bang for the buck came when we just go, wow, thank you so much for spending all of this time here and really taking the time away from whatever else that you want to do and being here with us. We know that you could be elsewhere, and so here's a cookie, or here's some time off, or here's a longer lunch. Just things that we could kind of accomplish that didn't require, again, too many funds, because that's really big for us, is being able, like you said, doing more with less. I still want to recognize, and I still want to show you that I value you as a team member, and I think there are plenty of ways to do that, and also very sincerely, without having to get really, really lavish. And our team really gets it too. We're all together in our place, so we all understand where it comes from when we say, I want to be able to send everybody away on a trip. I would love to be able to do that. I want to give everybody 2 extra weeks off. But if that's not something that I can accomplish, what are the other things that I can do for you, recognizing that you are a fantastic person, a valuable asset, and that you really are sacrificing for us. And so we do those little tiny things. And it's really neat to work. It is really neat to work in an organization that recognizes it kind of on a larger scale. All of us will get recognized. And I've taken that a cue from their book and then just bring it down to my team.
Fantastic. Can I jump in there, Bernardo?
Yeah, go on.
I know you and I are co-hosting here, but I'm really keen to hear your view on motivating team members as well, because I know you're an industrial psychologist, so I'd like to hear, if you don't mind.
Sure. I think that everyone that had kind of spoken touched a lot about the human element around connection, and many times, whether in very popular times or more lower economic times, it's being able to have that level of recognition, and also understanding what type of recognition is relative to the person that you're talking to. Many times we don't even do simple thank you notes. I know we have a lot of a lot of emails and so forth, or taking someone out for coffee. Lots of times you get a lot of skeptics out there that this is just a little bit frivolous activities, but it's those little things that people tend to remember, whether it's someone's birthday or something of the sense of what's important to them. So the first thing that everyone touched upon is getting to know the individuals at hand. So if you don't know your team members, then how are you going to get them motivated? And I think especially now that teams are much more smaller, you become more intimate with everyone and being able to understand what those dynamics look like, as well as what will help you to help them become more motivated. So I think when Tyler was talking about cookies, or even bringing in like Dunkin' Donut munchkins or some kind of food or something, during on a Friday morning, having some cup of coffee. Yeah, it's going to be out of my pocket. I'm not going to be able to expense it, but it's $20. It's not a lot of money, So people be like, wow, they're spending their money on us. The company can't do it, but it's a sign of the times. But this leader wants me to feel motivated. Obviously, food is one way, or being able to take a few hours off as having a group lunch where you're kind of very busy days and just talking about something other than work. The biggest mistake that people have, or they do, is that they're going to do some kind of outing. They talk only about work. And you shouldn't be doing that. You should be just basically going out and getting to know everyone and having a way of being able to distress at work. So I think those are just some of the tips of being able to kind of help others thinking about motivation. It's not easy, but it's what best works for you, if that helps a little bit.
That's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to just take this issue about motivation just a little step further, if that's okay with you all. And I'm, again, sort of delving into more of a tangible example. I'm wondering what you actually do when you find that a team member is not just not motivated, but is clearly really struggling and actually, is getting to the point where they're quite upset. So if you saw a team member that was getting into that sort of situation, how would you approach it? Does anybody fancy a go at that first?
I can go.
Great. Thanks, Robert.
So I'm a big fan. I always say don't put lipstick on a pig. If you see something, just go head on. If a team member is unhappy, you need to just set up some time. And kind of going off what Bernardo was saying before is you got to try and make it not so much just about the project. You got to really touch them on a personal level, right? So it makes it very difficult to have this kind of conversation if you don't build relationships with your team members all along, right? So if you're completely disconnected, stuck in your cubicle, you can't expect to have this kind of conversation and it go very well. But if all along you have been reaching out to your team members, going to these lunches, doing little ice cream socials as we call them around here, then when you see someone on your team really struggling, very unhappy, you can take them for a cup of coffee, ask them to go to the cafe. Bernardo, you're up in New York City. There's a Starbucks every 10 feet. You take them for a cup of coffee, and you just call it out and say what is going on. A large part of what I am here as a project manager is a facilitator. I need to make you successful. Tell me what's going on. Is there something going on outside of work? Is there something going on in this big matrixed environment? Are you being loaded on with other projects? Talk to me about how I can help you. And you have to be able to trust you, right? Especially if it's something at work, their boss is dumping on them. So you just have to have that conversation. My wife will tell you I don't read silent cues very well, right? Just tell me what the problem is, and I can help you. Okay, and that's the way I approach it with team members. And you can't do it if you haven't had those relationships up to that point, right? So building relationships, setting a foundation of trust, and then when you see there's a problem, just go attack it and have that conversation.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Robert. I was wondering if Hala had a view on dealing with an upset colleague or some way of handling that.
Yeah, I think I share a lot of Robert's approach in terms of I'll usually just get together with the person one-on-one and really maybe I'll start by kind of expressing some frustrations that I've been having lately with the project or with the process, and that way it opens the door to talking about it and helping them feel more comfortable sharing with me what they feel. By kind of starting the conversation and saying, oh man, I know we've been spending a lot of hours, or even just noticing something like, it seems like your interaction with this person has been a little bit difficult lately. Is there something that I can do to help? Do you feel loaded with too much work? Really, like Robert said, I really agree with you in terms of getting down to what is it really boil down to, because it's usually not just about the project. It's usually not just about the work. There's something behind it, we're hitting a nerve with this person because, you know, we're making them write too much documentation and they just hate documentation, or, you know, we're you know, doing something that is historically been a pain point for that person or an annoyance point, and try to get to that point and figure it out with them directly. Again, head-on and discussion with the person is the best way to deal with those things.
Brilliant. And just the same question to Tara Lynn. Tara Lynn, did you want to add anything to what Robert and Hala have said?
This has actually recently just happened to me, and I found that I actually wasn't the best person to deal with it. So I think the first step is that both Robert and Hala said is great. At least make the initial attempt. You see something is wrong, definitely don't not approach it. Approach the person and see what's going on. But after that, it really is up to, I feel, the team member to guide the conversation and then guide what the solution may be. And as it turned out, when we got to talking, I realized I'm not equipped to handle it. So I was very honest with them about it. I don't think this is going to be something that I can actually help you solve, but I may know somebody that you could talk to. And then it's just a matter of what level do you want to talk to. Do you want to talk to an executive? Do you want to talk to a peer? Do you want to talk to someone between an executive and a peer? Do you want to talk to someone at all? And after that, I kind of let it be and then follow up. And that was, it seems to have worked. The person felt like they were really in charge of kind of unraveling the situation. But they also, I believe, they told me that it's nice that you weren't like just trying to fix it all. Because that's definitely, I think, a project manager's tendency is I see an issue, let's fix it, okay, let's move on. But when you're dealing with someone, it really is their flavor. Maybe they don't want you to fix it, or maybe just airing out the grievance is enough and they're totally over it. And I've got a couple of folks on my team who are like that. I can go up to them and say, everything cool? And they're like, no, it's not cool, X, Y, and Z, A, B, C. Okay, I'm over it. And that's totally fine. And it may be for me to want to keep digging and digging and digging, but that's TL, right? And this is not about myself. It's not about myself as a project manager. It's about what's best for my team and the person that I'm dealing with. So recognizing, sure, I can recognize there's an issue, but let me also recognize if I'm the right person to handle it. And then even if it is or isn't me, let's follow up in a few days to see how they're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Actually, John, I wanted just to add to something to that, Tara Lynn. I think that's fantastic. You're absolutely right. I think that at the end of the day, if you're not self-aware about what best works for you and you're going to take on something that's more than yourself, it's not going to help anyone. I think it's very important that in what everyone's saying is you just have to be able to, A, identify that there is a problem going on, and B, see whether or not the person is willing to have a conversation with you. And if you have built that level of rapport, then be able to act on it. But if you haven't, or it's something that's a lot larger than you, being able to at least try to assist and support will go you a long way. So either of these approaches, I think, are fantastic. But it's important for you to know yourself, but at least do something about it versus just blowing it off and saying, you know what, this person is not, feeling, wanting to be a part of this team or anything of that sort, and just letting it go. Then it manifests itself into just something much larger that you're not going to be able to control. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. Thank you for doing that. I just wanted to ask you, Bernardo, if you would mind leading off with the last question and just taking us through that one.
Sure, not a problem. So I would say, we talked about doing more with less or less with less, and then motivation. With all these different types of pressures that are going on us, between budgets and projects and resources, how do you keep yourself stable or sane, for lack of a better word, amongst these pressures? Like, what do you do to kind of help, level set yourself so that you're at the top of your game? So let me go to Robert on this one, and then we can go around Robin on this.
Sure. So I like to have a lot of fun. So I will bring in a joke into, so specifically in the projects and on the working, I'll bring in a joke, maybe a short YouTube video, something to, this culture, at least the firms that I've been working with for the past few years, it's meeting after meeting after meeting, and you're just another meeting on their calendar for that day. So you got to kind of break it up. So sometimes I'll open up with a joke, a short YouTube video, something to make it light. Personally, for me, faith has a huge thing to play in my life. It is kind of the cornerstone that keeps me motivated, keeps me centered. So that plays a big part in staying sane. And then also just preparation, work-life balance, my boss, my work. Everybody knows Monday through Friday, you have me. Not unamount of time. Whatever you need, you've got me, right? I need 6 p.m. I need to have dinner with my family. And then on Friday, at about 7 p.m., I turn it off, and then I'll see you again Sunday night at 11 when everyone else goes back to sleep. And I keep those things in place because I need time with my family, and I need to decompress. And then Sunday night, the last thing I do is I kind of review everything that's ahead of me for the week to make sure that I'm organized. And I think between that, introducing some fun and having a little laugh with your project team, for me, it's faith. My faith keeps me very, very well balanced. And then speaking of balance, keeping that work-life balance and insisting on some personal time for whatever's important to you. For me, it's family. For you guys, it might be whatever that may be. But those things help me stay sane during projects.
How about you, Hala?
Yeah, well, I run away from the crazy stuff. Hey, sorry, I was losing the connection there for a second.
That's okay.
You were running away.
Well, yeah, I like to spend some of my free time running. It really helps balance me out and gives me kind of perspective. I like running early in the morning before anybody is awake and before any cars are on the road. So I kind of can go in the middle of the road, I can own the road, I can go against the rules. So that's part of my strategy. And then again, the work-life balance. I have 2 wonderful young boys. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I used to want to do it all and show that, I could work 100 hours and not have that faze me. But I got to a point where it became that you need to set your priorities by and you need to lead by example. So if you want people to have balance in their lives, then you need to also show them that I have to leave here by 5:15 or 5:20 because I have to go get my boys and I have to spend time with my family and really, having that time with them on the weekends and learning to do less at home and prioritizing has been a big deal. So I don't have to have everything 100% done or everything 100% clean. So, for example, I ran out of glasses, but for the first time I didn't stress out, and now I'm drinking out of my son's cup. Those are my strategies.
How about you, Tara Lynn?
I have a very great support network of family and friends. What's kind of neat about being in LA with most of my family on the East Coast is that almost at any time, if I'm stressing out, I could just pick up the phone and call them because they're 3 hours ahead. So even at 5 o'clock in the morning, if I'm just can't stay asleep, I can call somebody. It's only 8 a.m. over there, and especially my best friend who just yesterday I was stressing about a class that I was taking, and I just need to vent for 1 minute, and she's like, okay. So having that support network of your family, your close friends, even maybe people at work that you guys really get along with, that has been a big help for me. Being able to just make that phone call and say, I just need to talk for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And of course with my family, it's usually an hour or 2 hours. But it really does help. And then for fun stuff, my significant other and I make sure that we connect. We both work and everybody's got busy lives. So we try to make sure that we take that time for each other and that's an expectation of each other. Yes, we know that we both have to work, but we really want to spend that time together. So like Robert was saying, my time at home is going to be my time at home. So please don't expect me to pick up your email on a Friday at 1 o'clock in the morning, especially if it's non-critical. It's just not something that I would that I had to recognize that's not what I want to do. This is my family time. This is my connection time with the people that I love. And just for fun, I'm a huge video game and board gamer. So I'm always at some silly convention. I'm always at the local game shop. I'm always running some kind of game, one or the other. And it's just it's a blast. So I think that setting those expectations, like you were saying, that work-life balance, having those connections of a support network, that way you could just call someone almost at any time if you needed it, and really throwing in a healthy dosage of being silly and being a kid, because I definitely don't know in some cases where I'd be without just heading over to my local game shop and rolling some dice with buddies. It's a lot of fun.
That's funny. How about you, John? I'd like for you to see if you can tackle that question on as well. What do you do?
I'm really going to echo what the other people are saying. It's all about getting together with friends and family, and I find a few gin and tonics normally help. So yeah, I love reading. If I've got a quiet Sunday afternoon, I love escaping in some kind of sci-fi novel or yeah, that sort of stuff. I love it. Okay, I think. Do you want to give us your view, Bernardo, or should we go for the wrap up?
Well, I mean, I think everyone said pretty much what's important and what I've done myself, and there really isn't anything else to add. I think what most project managers struggle with, at least the ones that I work with, is shutting off. And I think it's important to be able to shut off, because if you don't get that chance to recharge your energy, you're not going to be able to be the best that you want to be. So I think similar to everyone, whether it's exercise or whatever is at that best is more to what you like to do, go out and do it. So nothing else to add to that one. So yeah, why don't we wrap up?
Fantastic. Okay, well, Bernardo and I really want to thank Hala, Robert, and Taralyn for joining us today. We've really enjoyed your company. You've been great fun, great sports. All we'd like to do is ask you each to just tell us how audience members can reach you and connect with you. So over to Hala first.
Sure. Well, you can read me at halasaleh.com. It's HALASALEH.com. And I'm on Twitter, first name, last name 1. So halasaleh 1. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well. Just search for me. I guess that's mainly it.
Right. And how about you, Robert?
Sure. You guys can check me out on LinkedIn, and a lot of my links are out there. I'm also on Twitter at RKELLY976, so RKelly976. And then every Friday, many of you know, I do the PM chat, so you can join us through that hashtag and those tweet ups each Friday. And if you have me somewhere there, then we'll connect going forward.
Great. And Taralyn?
You can read my work at PMI Voices on Project Management. It's a monthly blog. I also write a little bit every now and again for NASA, so you can find me hanging out with those folks too. Or I'm on Twitter at PMLeet, so it's Geek Leet, so it's L33T. And I love talking project management and gaming, of course, so I hope to see you guys.
Fantastic. Well, I'm John Hyde from publicsectorpm.com.
And I'm Bernardo Torrado from the Project Box. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate it. Until next time, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.